Is Eric Reibe more pro-ready coming into college than Donovan Clingan? You're locked on UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, just want to take a quick moment to ask for a small favor. If you're enjoying this content, please take a second to subscribe and follow the audio versions. We're exploding right now. Tons of followers on YouTube, subscribers. The followers are going up. Would really appreciate your support to spread the word on UConn. People have asked me, how do we help you grow? Tell your friends. If you have a UConn fan friend, if you have a friend that may like the show, may not like it, have them follow it anyway. You never know. You get one show that you like. That's everything we need. With every follow, subscription, download, it helps create more revenue for UConn NAL because, yes, Locked On UConn is probably the only podcast that donates 10% of all the revenue to an NIL collective, in this case, Bleeding Blue for Good. By supporting this show, you are directly supporting the UConn athletic program's efforts with NIL. So thank you for being part of this community. The more you grow, the more money I can give to UConn. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and get it started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, I opened the show with a story that came out with our friend at Stock Risers, Jake Weingartner. I think he's going to come on the show on Friday, potentially, or next week. We're just trying to get coordinated on that. He is super busy, but it is about, is Eric Reibe more pro-ready than Donovan Clingan? Let's talk about it. Today, first, we'll go with who we know. And who we know and love is a UConn legend, Donovan Clingan. Donovan stepped on campus. He wasn't the main event. That was Adama Sanogo. He had to learn behind an all-time great and really bide his time. But what he saw and what we saw was a willingness to do whatever UConn needed and Dan Hurley needed for a UConn win. Could DC probably shoot threes? Absolutely. Could he start almost in any other program in the country? Yes. But what he was majorly impactful as a freshman. And it's one of the reasons why UConn was such a deep club in the 2023 season and why they won a national championship. Defensively, he was elite, as was the team. Now, you jump to his sophomore year, his last year with UConn, another national title. Upped his points and rebounds, not significantly, but enough. We saw versatility. We saw not much shooting from outside, although that 1 3-pointer against Xavier in that 43-point drubbing was pretty sweet. But it was when it was needed, and it wasn't needed. That's the whole point. And UConn was asking Donovan to do something that a lot of players would consider counterintuitive. But he was there, especially in the NCAA tournament, versus Northwestern and Illinois. He dominated those games on both sides of the floor. And I'd argue with him being able to tire out Zach Edey and body him and essentially allow UConn to devise a plan of, okay, we won't help on him and it's all on you, Donovan. If he scores, cool. But if not, we'll help you on rebounding, help late if he's too deep. But we're not letting the other guys go off from three. And that was the exact game plan. Dan Hurley talked about at that in the post-game press conference. I predicted that the day of the game that I said, listen, this team has the ability to lock down defenders on the perimeter and just let Zach Edey do his thing. If he goes for 40, the others won't hurt you, and we win. The rest is history. So that unselfishness, that almost selflessness, that's not fun to get scored on, but it's what was needed at the time. And especially against someone like Zach, there was a lot of that rivalry, the 2 big 7-footers, blah, blah, blah. I give Donovan so much credit for having the discipline to just kind of take it on the chin a little bit in that game where, let's face it, Zach was great in that game. It's the only player that really played above his level in that Purdue game for Purdue was Zach Edey. And he did it against another elite defender. So I got to give him credit there. But I also give DC credit because he could have been like, Coach, I need help. And that wasn't ever a consideration. So it gave Purdue that false sense of security that they could stay with us. And obviously they did not. So it was a masterclass in coaching and a masterclass in discipline by Donovan. So kudos to him on that. But let's talk about the potential of Eric Reibe, because he is a slightly different profile. Yes, he's 7 foot, maybe 7'1". He's not as physically imposing as Donovan. I think he's about 240 pounds, and Donovan came into campus 280, 290. But what he lacks in size, he makes up in versatility. Reibe's game is more polished in some key areas, particularly with his shooting and range and ability to stretch the floor. The type of skill set that can translate to the NBA, and probably why people feel like he's more pro-ready, where bigs are expected to step outside and knock down shots. He also is a very solid defender. He's not the defender that Donovan was, and he has shown flashes of being able to guard multiple positions. So it's almost like he is a center in college, but maybe is more a projected stretch four in the NBA level, making him appealing for what the pro teams want, which is they value that flexibility. And Dan Hurley wants that flexibility too, positional versatility. I said it again. If we did a drinking game of every time I said positional versatility on every show, I think you guys would be drunk watching this show. One key question is whether Donovan's sheer physical dominance, does Donovan's size and defensive impact overshadow Reibe's more well-rounded game? If we do get him, I'd love to see that difference. The NBA, the potential size gets a lot of attention, but there's something to be said about a player like Riebe who already has a developed offensive skill set, whereas I feel like Donovan is going to have to prove that he has such a skill set. I say all that to say this. If Eric Reibe does come to UConn, and I think we're in a good place for him, I can guarantee you the focus will be on his immediate impact as a freshman in 2025, not whether he'll be picked in the first round higher than Donovan Clingan. I can guarantee you that. UConn's culture is all about players coming in and making an impact right away, not just having a high ceiling and this guy is super talented and leaving after 1 year and not fulfilling that potential in college. That kind of thinking is more for programs like Duke and Kentucky. Bar none. Probably Arkansas now. And where the emphasis is often sending guys to the NBA quickly, with us at UConn, it's about building players who continue to contribute to winning championships. And fans will be much more interested in seeing Riebe help the team now rather than dreaming about his draft stock. So, although it's a really fun debate, and I think there's some aspects of Riebe's game that are better than Donovan's, I think it's kind of a falsehood, because Donovan came in and quelled some of his ability, a la Stephen Castle. If Stephon Castle went, I've said this 100 times, if Stephon Castle went to just throwing out a program that's like a middling program that has a coach that just kind of lets you do what you want in Memphis, he probably would have averaged 25, 10, and 7 and would have been the number one pick in the draft. He would have shown that ability, which he's going to in the pros. Donovan, probably same thing. So, update today, Creighton is going to see Eric. It's a 3-horse race. UConn, Kansas, and Creighton. I feel like we're in very good shape with Eric. I gave that story of one of our fans hearing or seeing Luke Murray on FaceTime with him at the airport and kind of showed it. So hopefully that helps. And the passion for UConn hoops is definitely evident to these recruits. Really excited about Darius Adams. I'm looking forward to seeing him in Husky Blue. And when we return, we're going to talk about Hassan Diarra's evolution and the piece that our friend of the program, Joe Arruda, wrote in the Hartford Courant. If you haven't subscribed to him yet, please go check him out in the Hartford Courant. Fantastic piece on Haas. And we'll talk about all of that, and including the scheduling controversy that's all ablaze on X and Twitter, coming up after this. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return from FanDuel. If you haven't already signed up, you get an absolute huge $200 in bonus bets once you place your first $5 bet. So that way, when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play. I have FanDuel up right now, and it's super intuitive. So For me right now on Thursday Night Football today, I'm looking at, I think, Tampa Bay at Atlanta. I think Tampa Bay's playing really well, coming off of a thrashing of the hated Eagles. They're plus 1.5 on a Thursday. I don't know, man. I love that road dog at plus 1.5. It's minus 105. And then if you're interested in anytime touchdowns, my suggestion would be Bucky Irving has some really good value at plus 175. And if you're more of a, I want to get a lot of bang for my buck, they have some really cool 4-leg same game parlays. Bijan Robinson anytime touchdown, Drake London anytime touchdown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So if you feel like this is going to be a high scoring game, that's a 4-leg same game parlay, and $10 wins you $293.96. So could be worth your time to check it out. Make sure you bet responsibly. America's #1 sports book, FanDuel. Check them out and get started. All right, you're back on Locked On UConn. I have to say, I read Joe's article in the Hartford Courant on Hassan Diarra and his kind of returning to UConn. And what that evolution could look like. And I hate to always bring it back to Dan Hurley, but because he controls everything, I mean that in a good way, it's hard not to. He is all over this piece, and in a good way. Diarra was kind of waiting as all of his teammates were declaring for the NBA draft. But when he finally spoke, it was clear he was coming back. Sorry, a little indigestion. And the one goal was the three-peat. Diarra had a crucial conversation with the aforementioned Dan Hurley, who challenged him. And this is the part that I love, because Dan Hurley is like a zebra. He doesn't change his stripes. And to quote Joe's piece, you can't come back the same. And that's exactly what Diarra plans to do, is to come back better. But he furthered that and said, if you come back the same, you might as well have just played overseas or tried to catch on with a G League team. Because every player at UConn, we talk about this all the time. The standard is the standard, right? Every player needs to make a jump. So every one of those players that came back in the Steph Castle class that stayed, Yusef, Jalen, Jaden, and Solo, all have to make a step. And likely a big step for UConn to three-peat. But back to Haas. His return to UConn and what's expected of him this season after staying quiet while his teammates declare for the NBA draft. I think the crazy thing is it says so much about Hurley's expectations for Hassan and myself. Like I think Hassan Diarra, I've said it from the start. He's been so good coming off the bench that if you gave him more minutes, you have to extrapolate those stats are going to be even better. Because last season, Haas averaged 6 points, 3 assists, like a few steals. I mean, fantastic defender. Really solid numbers, led to a 6th Man of the Year award in the Big East because obviously he has value. In the game against Marquette against Tyler Kolek, who was the reigning Big East Player of the Year at that point, he outplayed him. The 6th man for UConn outplayed the Big East Player of the Year. If you don't think that it's possible for Hassan Diarra to play at Tyler Kolek's level, I don't think you know enough about basketball to discuss it. Hassan Diarra is that dude. He is as tough. He is not big. I don't think anyone's confusing Tyler Kolek with Magic Johnson. And Tyler Kolek isn't that great of a shooter. Hassan Diarra, same thing. But he upped his percentages. Was a 17% three-point shooter coming into UConn. Now it's at 35%. I think if he makes the leap to become an all Big East caliber player, I'm not saying he's going to win Big East Player of the Year, but those numbers are going to need to improve significantly, right? And in my mind, based on Hurley's comments and the way the roster is shaping up, Diarra's got to be more consistent offensively. And leadership. He's working hard to improve that three-point shot, but right now it's 35.7%. I think he's got to push that up to almost close to 40%. If he's dipped down a little bit underneath 39 like Alex was last year, I'm totally fine with that. That really will open up his game because let's face it, he is fantastic in pick and roll. He's dangerous downhill and really can allow people that have to really kind of play tight on him and blow by, kick out for open threes for Liam, Jalen, Solo, Aiden, Ahmad. I mean, the list goes on and on. His ability to be a dual threat in this offense consistently as a starter is going to make this team's position as a defending two-time national champion that much stronger. So for him to hit that next level, I think we need to see him average closer to 12 points. I'm not holding it to any number, but double the production and double the production on assists. I think he can actually, I would even be okay with him 10 points, 8 assists. Like, be that floor general that gets your buckets when people play off and forget about you and you make them pay. And then also be that distributor that I know he can be. He's a great finisher at the rim. He's tough. He's a Queens kid. If he can step up as a consistent scorer and primary playmaker on the point side, I just think the sky's the limit for this UConn team. In particular, when we hear the things that they're trying to do with Sampson, to have that type of relationship where they could potentially work off of each other. I mean, I wish we were playing. That's 34 days away. I wish we were playing tonight. Of course, the leadership aspect is huge too. Hurley has tasked him with not just improving his own game, but stepping up as a leader for the younger guys, Ahmad, Isaiah, Liam, the sophomores, the whole thing. So with him, Alex Caravan, Samson Johnson, also expected to take on leadership roles. I think Diarra has to balance his own development with helping the team stay focused and united. And honestly, if he develops, but his stats, he's not a stat stuffer, who cares? Like, I think for him, he is going to be more of that kind of point guard brain center that they call Alex Caravan. And the numbers will come because there's going to be a lot of points to go around with this team. And if he needs to take a step up because the game's on the line or he needs to be a leader from that perspective, I think he'll make the right decision whether or not he needs to score or dish it out. And just in like setting that example of what that looks like on and off the court. And that's another big responsibility that Haas has, and I think he's ready to embrace it. And I think he already has. I think he's the one who coined the phrase, this is day 117. If that doesn't tell you a lot about who he is as a player and how much he matters to this program and to Dan Hurley, I don't know what does. Bottom line, Diarra's return is a huge boost for UConn. I don't know too many programs that have a guy, and it's a 6-man laying in the wings that you can insert in your starting lineup that you have total confidence in to run your offense. Does anyone have an issue with Haas starting? No, none. Absolutely not. He needs to shoot a little better. Okay. But he's not going to be the best shooter on the team. Oh, well, distribute the ball better, add more assists. I think that's inevitable. And be the leader on this team along with Alex and Sampson. If he can do all of that, then we're looking at a player who can help UConn go for that three-peat and maybe even earn himself some personal accolades along the way. So when we return, let's talk about this scheduling controversy. Is it really a controversy? I looked at the schedule. We'll talk about the schedule, but specifically hone in on what people were frustrated about with some of the streaming stuff and everything that goes with it. Coming up after this. All right, you're back on Locked On UConn. We're talking the pro readiness of Eric Reibe. It's been said that he may be more pro ready than Donovan Clingan. I kind of agree, but don't. It's kind of, I feel like it's a loaded question. We talked about that in the first segment. Second segment talked about Hassan Diarra's evolution and where I think he'll be, and really pumped up Joe Arruda's piece in the Hartford Current. Go check that out if you haven't. It's a paid, you have to subscribe to it, but subscribe. I think it's like $1 for 6 months. Come on. Pay the money and get a bunch of good UConn content, including Emily Adams on the women's side, who's been on the show as well, and hopefully will continue to be. Anyway, the latest kind of controversy on Twitter where people are professionally outraged over everything. And the outrage on the UConn side, I feel like it's warranted. I totally get people's frustration. I'm not as frustrated on it because I actually have Peacock. So some of the games are on Peacock. That's the controversy. So if you're hearing this for the first time, either on the audio version or YouTube, these games are spread out. And now with the Big East having the contract with Fox and NBC and I believe HBO Max, some of these are spread through multiple networks. So like, for example, I don't think there's any games that aren't on national television, which is great. That sometimes that doesn't happen. The only game that we don't have a designation, or the only 2 games, are the Texas game on Sunday, December 8th. That's to be determined. And then Seton Hall, this the last game of the season at Gamble. That'll probably be an afternoon game, but it'll probably be on Fox. But let's talk about the 3 games and what this would cost you. Peacock's subscription is $7.99. So if for the 3 games, you're essentially paying, and you have to ask yourself how valuable it is to watch UConn against these teams, about $23.97 for 3 months. The first game is Saturday, November 30th against University of Maryland Eastern Shore. That's a bye game. I think it's a Saturday evening game at XL Center after Thanksgiving, I believe. So look, if you love UConn and you can bear missing 1 game, maybe you don't subscribe for the first month to save yourself $8. But if you really want to, if you don't have Peacock and you're a diehard UConn fan, as most of you are, as I am, you're going to pony up, which sucks. But then this Saturday, the next game is Saturday, December 21st at Butler. It's a noon start at Hinkle, and that's a Peacock as well. I don't have as much outrage because I have it. And I think Peacock actually has some pretty decent value. It's not like it. I think all these streaming channels have value because you can find shows, you can find documentaries, you can find all kinds of stuff that are fun and are either educational or entertaining. And that's kind of the way of the world right now, guys. I think it was something like $900 to watch all of the NFL package this year. Of course, we paid it because we're huge football fans in our household as well. Although I'm almost thinking about not doing it next year because I'm a Giants fan and they make me sick. But that's another story for another show. I think for me, the schedule, I'm more just looking forward to a few of these games. I talked about it on another show, the game at Creighton, which is a 9:00 game at the Cintas Center. We're at the Shy Health Center. I apologize. It's on CBS Sportsnet, so it's on national TV at 9:00. Honestly, I think we're going to lose a few Big East games this year. I think I have us at 17-3. I don't want it to be at Creighton. I don't want the feather in their cap to be that UConn has never won in Omaha. But if it happens, it happens. It's not the end of the world. But I just want that one. I think Dan probably has that circled as well. Some other ones, at Providence on Saturday, March 1st at the Mutual Pavilion, Amica Mutual Pavilion. I'm going to pause real quick. I want to share something. All right, we're back. I paused because I was talking about the Providence game, and I want to share something with you guys. I know some of you have had run-ins with this Providence fan. He's been on our show. He's not coming on the show right now, but I'm sharing something because I bought this shirt for him, and because he's looking for a kidney. So if you are a basketball fan, if you are a supporter of people who are looking for these type of situations, need a donor, and they're on a list and it's very difficult, I encourage you to reach out to Matt at Leb. I think his handle is at Leb Zeppelins. You can find him. I think you guys know exactly who I'm talking about. Leb, we're rooting for you. I did not wear this on the show today. I am going to wear it on my football show for Friday. I know a ton of Providence fans watch UConn football because you guys don't have a program. So we're happy to have you join us as UConn is a wagon on their way to 10 wins this year. But that being said, I really want you guys, you can buy this shirt, I think at just go to his Twitter, and all the proceeds are going towards a fund to help with some medical expenses. So I got mine. I know some other UConn fans are helping out with that stuff. So it's all love. I mean, as much as the Big East probably hates us right now because we're thinking about conference realignment, fans love Big East basketball. And I don't think that's disputed. So this schedule is what I'm looking forward to. And that Providence game, if I can get to it, that'd be awesome, because I'd love to hang out with Leb and talk some smack before the game. And I wish them the best. The other games, obviously, we've talked about the Gonzaga game at Madison Square Garden, the Maui Classic. We're playing Memphis first. at Texas. Baylor's coming. They just got a big recruit in Tunde Yusufa, who was on our list as well, but they took him, which is great. Good for Baylor and Scott Drew. But I sorry guys, like I'm not as outraged about the Peacock stuff. $24 to watch 3 games. It's not bad. It's the best college basketball in the country. It's the best product in the country. We're not talking about, years ago when we were struggling. We're talking about a historic three-peat. And if you can't pony up $24 to watch this team for those 3 games, like I said, if you want to miss that first one because it's University of Maryland Eastern Shores, then maybe you're only paying $15. It's not bad for those games. And they're both good games. I mean, DePaul, I think DePaul's going to be decent this year. It's not like it's going to be. And then also be interested to see what the new look DePaul looks like. Also a Butler game. Butler always plays us tough, especially at home. And I'm looking forward to the season. So I will pay, if Peacock was $20 a month, I'd pay $20 a month. That's just the way it is. And that's the way they have us right now. They have the product we want for those 3 games, and we're going to have to pay for them. So look, guys, this has been another episode of Locked on UConn. Check us out on our second show with the UConn women. We're going to talk through a few different things that I saw and also their starting practice as well. Talk about their newest recruit, Bianca Quinones. I'm trying to have a international scout expert on the show tomorrow to discuss her specifically because her game is ridiculous. And if you haven't seen her, check her out. She's Ecuadorian. She's the first South American recruit I think we've ever had on the UConn women's side, and I think both sides really. And great show today. I hope you guys are engaged. Stay locked on, stay connected. This has been another episode of Locked on UConn. We love you. Go Huskies.